Today I'm going to be using my blacks, my greys and my whites. Now you can't iron onto this fabric, but I'm going to use it as foundation piece for the project that I'm sewing today. It's breathable, it's what you can use for disposable face masks. It is washable, 4 3/4 inch squares, which is 12 centimeters. I've sewn together all my blocks, so I ended up sewing 30. I'm not going to need 30. I wanted different options for the layout. And the way we're going to lay this out is rows of 6. So I'm just laying them out right now how I want them. And then I need 4 extra ones on the sides. Okay, I'm happy with that layout. So now I'm just going to stack them up to the side here in their rows, just to help me when I'm sewing the pieces together in what order I decided I wanted to sew them. This is not necessary if you've got completely random blocks. I'm going to start off with the top row and I want to sew them and repeat, so I've got a strip. So I've sewn my first row and we're just going to do exactly the same for these 3 rows. So be aware of what your foundation piece is. If you're using fabric, muslin, anything like that, then you can just iron straight onto it, but because I've used this I can't. So I'm going to press using the Teflon sheet and that's worked out fine. I'm just going to continue pressing, put the sheet on. "26 inches, which is 66 centimeters, 3¼ inches, which is 8 centimeters, 10 inches, which is 25½ centimeters, 3¼ inches, which 8 centimeters. Now take one of your pieces that has 6 sewn together, and each of these 4-inch markings, starting with the centre, I'm going to pin on a seam. Take the 2 longer strips, making sure they're the right way facing, and we're just going to flip them over, line up the seams, and sew those 2 together. Okay, and now we're going to do exactly the same for this seam and this seam, keeping the denim bits on the outside edge. So I'm going to start at that mark there and stop at that mark there. And I'm just going to go a couple of stitches forward and a couple of stitches back and then start sewing. What I've done is I've left my seam allowance at both ends. I haven't sewn all the way to the end. So now I'm going to repeat the same for this bottom end here. Cut these level and repeat for all the pieces. I have an old sheet that I'm going to use to make the lining. I've got a piece of webbing that is 11.5 inches long by 1.5 inches wide. Find the centre, which is this one, and I'm just going to move over one and centre the strap there. Same here. So just eyeballing it, I'm just centering the strap and I'm just going to go and sew those on. Bring the corners down. Line up the seams. And we're going to sew from the dot that we made all the way to the end. We're going to do that for all 4 corners. I'm going to sew a couple of stitches first and back stitch to that dot and then sew up that seam. I've sewn all of the 4 corners. I'm not going to press, just flip it out. You can see how nice and neat they are. And we're just going to go and repeat the same for the lining piece. Make sure you have your right sides facing if you've got fabric that has a right and a wrong side. And we're just going to go and sew all of those 4 corners together. So we've sewn the corners, we need to just release a bit of the top here. And now I just want to press them open. First of all, I'm just going to mark my centres just to make it easier. And do the same for the outer. Place your lining right side down, so you've got your two right sides of fabrics facing each other, and just line up your centres. But I'm going to leave a gap from there to there. So we're going to start there, sew all the way around and end there. Do not sew this middle piece here. So do a couple of stitches forward and a couple of stitches backwards. And we're just going to sew all the way around that edge. Pull your lining away from the outer. What we're going to do now is join corners. So flatten your bottoms out. I'm going to flip the lining over to the corner of the bag. And I'm just going to sew 1/8 of an inch. I'm not going to sew all the way across, I'm just going to sew a little bit on each side. I'm not going to go across the middle because that's sewn down. So just a couple of inches either side. I'm just going to go in that seam allowance there, pull my needle out the way. Same again this side. Pull my needle out the way. So we've attached the corners but not in the middle. We've just tacked it a little bit in the seam allowance on both of the sides. And now we're just going to flip the whole thing right sides out. So I've top stitched that all the way around and we are finished. But in hindsight, I wish I'd have done the handles last. And the reason why, it would have made sure that the lining would have stayed up. We've done the sides and the sides are not going to come away at the top, but because it's so wide, the top's going to hang down. So what I'm going to do is flip it back over and just pull it so I know that it's all secure. I'm just going to put a few pins in it all the way through both layers, and I'm going to take it back to the machine and I'm just going to go over these one more time. It looks a little bit baggy, so what I'm going to do is top stitch all the way around the edge and up the corners, which will make it stand up more square and also a tighter fit. So I'm not going all the way right to the end, I'm just stopping as close as I can get into the corners. So let's see if it fits.